And as long as we keep it covered.
Because Mexico City is a giant basin,
from clever irrigation methods to unique planting techniques, tribes have developed farming hacks passed down through generations. These hacks aren't just effective, they are practical, sustainable, and could change the way we approach farming today. Here are the 20 farming hacks tribes use that you'll wish you knew sooner. Let's dive in. First, Zai pits. In the sun-scorched landscapes of Burkina Faso, where rain comes in precious, fleeting moments, local farmers have mastered a technique that transforms barren soil into fertile oases. The Zai pit technique isn't merely digging holes, it's creating micro-universes of life. Here's an instance. Let's say a farmer stands in seemingly hopeless terrain, the ground cracked and resistant. With practiced movements, they carve depressions about the size of dinner plates, roughly 20 to 30 centimetres wide and 10 to 20 centimetres deep, spaced just far enough for plants to breathe. But the magic isn't in the digging, it's what happens next. Into these pockets go handfuls of organic matter, animal manure, food scraps, and plant residue. When the rains finally arrive, instead of racing across the hardened surface, the water collects in these pits, creating miniature moisture reservoirs that can sustain growth for days longer than flat fields. Termites, nature's tiny tillers, are drawn to the organic matter, creating tunnels that further improve water infiltration. The result is nothing short of miraculous. Sorghum, millet, and other crops rising from what was once dead earth, yields increasing by up to 500% in some cases. What's truly remarkable is how this ancient practice, born from generations of observation and necessity, accomplishes what modern agricultural science strives for: maximizing water efficiency, improving soil structure, concentrating nutrients, and creating microhabitats, all without fossil fuels or factory-made chemicals. Second, agroforestry. The farmers of Africa's Sahel region have perfected what modern agriculture is only beginning to rediscover: that the boundary between forest and field is wonderfully blurry. Their solution comes in the form of a remarkable tree called Phaidabia albida, affectionately known as the fertilizer factory. Unlike conventional trees that might compete with crops for sunlight and resources, this botanical marvel operates on a reverse schedule that seems almost deliberately designed to complement farming. When the rainy season arrives and crops begin their growth journey, the Phaidabia sheds its leaves, allowing sunlight to reach the developing plants below. Then, as if by some ancient pact with human cultivators, it leaves out during the dry season, casting cooling shade when nothing is growing. But the true sorcery happens underground and unseen. The Phaidabia's roots host specialized bacteria that perform the remarkable feat of pulling nitrogen straight from the air and converting it into a form plants can use. Each year, these trees drop their nitrogen-rich leaves precisely when and where they're most needed, creating a natural fertilization zone that extends well beyond their canopies. Fields with these trees scattered at proper intervals produce corn yields 2 to 3 times higher than those without, creating a patchwork of productive circles of life across the landscape. What's more, these trees reach deep into soil layers that crops could never access, mining minerals and drawing up groundwater, effectively expanding the vertical growing space of the entire field. The genius of this system is not just its effectiveness, but its simplicity. Once established, these trees work tirelessly year after year, requiring nothing but space and time. 3. Mulching with crop waste. If you were to walk through a traditional Kenyan farming plot, you might initially mistake it for something messy or unkempt. A rookie error that would reveal how little you understand about the choreographed ecosystem management happening before your eyes. What appears as random organic debris scattered across garden beds is actually a meticulously placed protective layer that transforms farming economics. Banana leaves fresh from yesterday's harvest lie flat against the soil around young maize plants, while cassava stems from last season's crop are strategically positioned around bean seedlings. Coffee husks form perfect circles around tomato plants, and strips of palm fronds create protective pathways between rows. This isn't garbage, it's a sophisticated multifunction system that would make any efficiency expert proud. As the fierce equatorial sun beats down, this organic armour reflects excess heat while simultaneously trapping the morning dew, extending the effective moisture availability by hours each day. When occasional heavy rains arrive, these same materials prevent soil splashing, which would otherwise spread fungal diseases from ground to leaf. The mulch layers decompose at carefully considered rates, banana leaves offering quick nutrients, while coarser materials provide longer-term soil structure improvements. Perhaps most remarkable is the labour mathematics. What looks like additional work actually creates net time savings by reducing weeding requirements by up to 80% and watering needs by similar margins. The system evolves continuously through the seasons, with different materials being deployed based on their availability and the specific needs of each growth stage, creating a perpetual cycle where waste from one harvest becomes the growing medium for the next. 4. Ash as fertiliser. Across Uganda's fertile highlands, generations of farmers have performed a daily ritual that transforms yesterday's cooking fire into tomorrow's bounty through a practice so elegantly simple, it's almost invisible to outsiders. As dawn breaks, women carefully collect the fine grey ash from cooking fires, material most would discard without thought, and carry it to specific sections of their gardens in woven baskets. What looks like mere soot is actually a complex mineral concentrate, created through the complete combustion of specific hardwoods selected partly for their cooking properties, but equally for the quality of ash they produce. This isn't haphazard waste disposal, it's precision nutrient cycling. With practiced hands, they dust the ash around certain crops, with particular attention to leafy greens, solanaceous fruits like tomatoes and eggplants, and root vegetables that appreciate what this grey powder provides. The transformation begins within hours as the highly alkaline ash neutralises acidic tropical soils, creating perfect conditions for microbial life while unlocking previously bound nutrients. Potassium, calcium, and magnesium, elements crucial for plant development, become suddenly available in concentrated form exactly where needed most. Insect pests, particularly soft-bodied types that would devastate young seedlings, retreat from the ash's microscopic sharp edges and caustic chemistry. Beyond nutrition, the ash creates visible barriers against slugs and snails that would otherwise decimate emerging plants overnight. Perhaps most fascinating is how this application is timed around weather patterns. A light ash dusting before a gentle rain provides maximum benefit, while application before heavy downpours would waste this precious resource. The knowledge of which plants benefit, when to apply, how much to use, and when to withhold has been refined through thousands of growing cycles, creating an elegantly effective system that connects hearth and harvest in a continuous loop. Fifth termite, mound soil. In Zimbabwe's Masvingo province, farmers engage in what might appear to outsiders as an utterly counterintuitive practice. They deliberately seek out and collect soil from the massive termite mounds that punctuate the landscape like natural monuments. What might seem like bizarre behaviour reveals itself as brilliant ecological opportunism once you understand what's happening below the surface. These towering structures, some standing over 2 metres tall, aren't just random insect architecture, they're the result of millions of tiny termites functioning collectively as biological mining operations. As these industrious creatures build their elaborate homes, they bring particles from deep soil horizons to the surface, particles that would otherwise remain inaccessible to plants and farmers alike. The composition of this termite-processed earth is nothing short of agricultural gold, containing up to 25 times more calcium, 10 times more magnesium, and 5 times more nitrogen than the surrounding topsoil. the clay content can be 20% higher than adjacent land, creating a material with exceptional water-holding capacity. Even more remarkably, the termites' digestive processes and the unique microclimate within the mounds create an environment where beneficial soil microbes flourish at densities impossible in ordinary field conditions. Farmers carefully harvest portions of these mounds during dry seasons, being cautious never to destroy the entire structure, then strategically incorporate this super soil into their planting holes for particularly demanding crops, or use it to create specialized seedling beds for delicate plants. Gardens treated with this material show significantly extended growing seasons, withstanding dry periods that would wither conventional plots. The relationship forms a curious partnership. Farmers benefit from the termites' earth-moving capabilities while ensuring the colonies remain healthy enough to continue their soil-enriching work, creating a sustainable cycle that can continue for generations when properly managed. 6. Intercropping with legumes. Walking through these fields is like witnessing a masterclass in companion planting. Tall maize stalks reach skyward, while between them, groundnuts and cowpeas spread their leafy tendrils along the soil. What might appear as random proximity is actually calculated botanical chemistry. The legumes, those humble beans and groundnuts, harbour specialised bacteria in nodules along their roots that perform alchemy ordinary plants cannot, converting atmospheric nitrogen into a form usable by plants. This invisible exchange happens continuously, with the maize benefiting from this freely offered nitrogen while providing structural support and partial shade in return. The system creates multiple harvest layers from the same piece of land, grains from above, protein-rich beans from below, doubling production without doubling space. The ground cover created by the sprawling legumes smothers potential weeds, while their flowers attract pollinators that benefit both plant species. During heavy rains, the diverse root structures hold soil differently, reducing erosion in ways monocultures cannot match. Perhaps most remarkable is the resilience this partnership creates. If drought strikes and the maize struggles, the more drought-tolerant legumes often survive, ensuring families won't face complete crop failure. This natural insurance policy, combined with improved nutrition from a diversified harvest and enhanced soil fertility that reduces dependence on purchased inputs, demonstrates how these traditional farmers discovered principles of agroecology centuries before Western science had names for them. 7th, urine fertilization. In the highlands of Tanzania, farming communities practice a resource reclamation technique that makes modern urbanites squeamish, but reveals profound ecological wisdom about closing nutrient cycles. Here's what happens. Household urine, something flush and forget cultures treat as waste, is carefully collected in dedicated clay pots kept in strategic locations around homesteads. After aging for several days, a crucial step that neutralizes acidity and kills potential pathogens. This golden liquid is diluted with water at specific ratios depending on its intended use. Stronger solutions for heavy feeders like maize, more dilute versions for delicate greens. The science behind this practice is impeccable. Human urine contains approximately 80% of the nitrogen, 50% of the phosphorus, and 60% of the potassium that humans consume, making it almost perfectly balanced as a plant fertilizer. Farmers apply this solution at critical growth stages, particularly when plants are establishing or about to flower, targeting the soil around plants rather than the foliage directly. 8. Bottle drip irrigation. South African small-scale farmers, particularly women tending household gardens in water-scarce regions, have transformed ordinary plastic waste into precision irrigation technology through a method that maximizes every precious drop. The system begins with collection. Plastic bottles of all sizes, from small soda containers to larger 2-litre vessels, are gathered from households or retrieved from waste streams. Each bottle undergoes careful modification. Caps are punctured with tiny holes calibrated to the specific water needs of different plants, while the bottoms are removed to create filling funnels. These engineered vessels are then buried neck down adjacent to plants, with only the open bottom remaining above soil level. When filled with water, they create personalised hydration systems that deliver moisture directly to the root zone at a precisely controlled rate, drop by patient drop. This deliberate slowness is actually the system's greatest strength, allowing water to percolate through the soil rather than running off or evaporating. Plants receive consistent moisture over 2 to 3 days, rather than the feast or famine cycle of conventional watering, developing deeper, more drought-resistant root systems. As a result, the targeted delivery means virtually no water is lost to evaporation or weed growth, making this up to 70% more efficient than surface irrigation. For families that might need to carry water long distances from communal wells, this efficiency translates directly into reduced labour burden. The system scales beautifully, from single bottles nurturing prized medicinal plants to hundreds of bottles transforming otherwise unproductive yards into thriving vegetable gardens. Perhaps most ingeniously, the regular checking and refilling creates a natural opportunity for daily plant inspection, allowing gardeners to catch pest problems early while establishing the consistent observation patterns that characterize skilled growers. 9. Contour farming. In Rwanda's Land of 1,000 Hills, where some of the world's most dramatic agricultural landscapes unfold across impossibly steep terrain, farmers have developed contour farming techniques that transform gravitational challenge into opportunity. Rather than fighting the hill's natural shape, a losing battle against erosion that has caused agricultural collapse in many mountainous regions, Rwandan cultivators embrace the curves. They begin by identifying the hill's natural contour lines, points of equal elevation that wrap around slopes like nature's own topographic map. Using simple A-frame levels made from local wood and stones, they mark these invisible lines before transforming them into physical features through carefully constructed swales, shallow ditches with berms on their downhill sides. Crops are then planted in precise relation to these contours. Root vegetables like sweet potatoes directly on the berms to benefit from the loosened soil. Maize and sorghum along the upper edges where they can access collected moisture without sitting in waterlogged conditions. And nitrogen-fixing shrubs like pigeon peas at strategic intervals to stabilize the entire system. During heavy rains, instead of water racing destructively downhill, carrying precious topsoil with it, these contour features slow its journey, forcing it to meander along the hillside. This transforms potential disaster into distributed irrigation as water seeps gently into the soil along its extended path. Sediment that would otherwise be lost downslope is captured behind the berms, gradually building new growing spaces through a form of slow-motion terracing. Most remarkable is how this practice accumulates benefits over time. Each season, the contours become more pronounced, soil organic matter increases rather than decreases, and the hillside's water-holding capacity actually improves, creating an agricultural system that grows more productive with age rather than being depleted. 10th, seed preservation in ash. In Ethiopia's ancient farming communities, where seed saving represents not just food security, but cultural continuity, a deceptively simple preservation technique ensures the vital link between harvests remains unbroken. After carefully selecting the most vigorous plants displaying desired traits, drought tolerance, pest resistance, flavour or productivity, seeds are meticulously extracted and dried in dappled sunlight until they pass the traditional snap test. The preservation magic begins with specially prepared ash, not just any ash, but that produced from specific hardwoods and dried plant materials known for their pest-repelling properties. Elders oversee the preparation, ensuring the ash achieves the perfect greyish-white colour indicating complete combustion and the right mineral composition. The cooled ash is then sifted through finely woven grass sieves to achieve a powder-like consistency before being layered into dedicated seed storage containers. Traditionally, clay pots with tight-fitting lids or hollow gourds sealed with beeswax. Seeds and ash are arranged in alternating layers, each seed type wrapped in thin strips of dried banana leaf or paper-like teff stalks marked with identifying symbols. The protective mechanism works on multiple levels. The ash creates a desiccant effect that draws out residual moisture, preventing the premature germination or fungal growth that ruins many stored seeds. Its alkaline nature repels weevils and other storage pests that cannot tolerate the high pH environment. And its fine texture fills microscopic spaces between seeds, preventing insect movement should any breach the container. Additionally, certain compounds in the wood ash have natural fungicidal and bactericidal properties that suppress pathogens without damaging the delicate embryo within each seed. Stored in cool, dark corners of households, these ash-protected seeds maintain remarkable viability, sometimes exceeding 90% germination rates even after several seasons, ensuring that each family maintains not just their food supply, but their agricultural heritage. 11th, natural pest repellents. In Ghana's lush farming communities, the battle against crop-destroying insects isn't fought with harsh chemicals, but with nature's own pharmacy. When morning light filters through the trees, you will find farmers crushing neem leaves in wooden mortars, releasing their bitter compounds into water before straining the potent liquid into repurposed plastic bottles. This botanical brew, sprayed onto vulnerable crops, creates an invisible shield that disrupts insect feeding and breeding cycles without harming beneficial pollinators or contaminating the harvest. Elsewhere in the same fields, strategic plantings of marigolds create vibrant orange borders that aren't just decorative. Their strong scent masks the chemical signatures that draw pests to their target crops, while chili pepper solutions applied to young seedlings make them literally too hot to handle for hungry caterpillars and beetles, creating multi-layered protection systems that cost nothing but time and observation. 12th, cow dung manure. The cattle herding communities of Mali have transformed what urban dwellers consider waste into the cornerstone of their agricultural success through a ritualized practice that connects livestock and crops in perfect symbiosis. Each morning and evening, children and elders gather fresh cow patties in wide, shallow baskets, carefully layering them with straw and plant trimmings in designated composting pits dug strategically near fields but away from water sources. During the dry season, these pits become centers of microbial alchemy as families turn and moisten the decomposing materials, sometimes adding wood ash to balance acidity or urine to accelerate breakdown. By planting thyme, what began as smelly waste has transformed into crumbly, sweet-smelling black gold that farmers work into precise planting holes with bare hands, delivering not just nutrients, but billions of beneficial microbes that improve soil structure and disease resistance for crops that consistently outperform those grown with imported fertilizers. 13. Floating gardens. When seasonal floods transform South Sudan's lowlands into temporary lakes, local farmers don't retreat. They innovate with a technique that turns potential disaster into a unique growing opportunity. The process begins by harvesting tall reeds and water hyacinth, which are woven into dense floating mats secured with stakes driven into the lake bed. Atop this buoyant foundation, farmers spread layers of aquatic weeds mixed with silt dredged from the lake bottom, creating islands of fertility that rise and fall with changing water levels. On these living rafts, women plant quick-growing vegetables like okra, nightshade greens, and spider plant, their roots eventually penetrating the mat to access continuous moisture from below. These floating plots become lifelines during hunger seasons when conventional fields are submerged, producing fresh food when it's most scarce, while simultaneously transforming problematic invasive plants into productive growing platforms that can be pulled to shore, composted and rebuilt year after year. 14. Zero grazing livestock. Uganda's smallholder dairy farmers have revolutionised their production systems through a space-efficient practice that maximises the benefits of keeping animals while minimising their environmental impact. Instead of allowing cattle to roam and selectively graze, families construct raised wooden stalls with slatted floors, under which they place collection troughs lined with absorbent plant materials. Family members cut and carry nutritionally balanced fodder, a mix of elephant grass, leguminous trees, and selected herbs with medicinal properties, directly to the animals, carefully monitoring their intake and health. This concentrated feeding creates a manure collection system of unprecedented efficiency with nothing wasted. Liquid urine drains through the slats into the absorption materials below, while solid waste is scraped twice daily into dedicated composting structures where it's layered with household organic waste and covered with banana leaves to retain nitrogen. The resulting system produces higher quality milk from healthier animals, while generating enough rich compost to double vegetable production in adjacent gardens, all while using less land than traditional grazing and protecting sensitive watersheds from contamination. 15th, biogas slurry use. In Kenya's smallholder communities, innovative farmers have closed the energy food loop through systems that turn animal waste into cooking fuel, while simultaneously producing one of the world's most perfect liquid fertilizers. The process centers around simple brick and concrete biogas digesters built partially underground, where families feed a daily slurry of livestock manure mixed with water. As anaerobic bacteria break down this material, they release methane captured for cooking, while the digested slurry flows into covered collection ponds. This dark liquid treasure, now pathogen-free and with nutrients converted to immediately plant-available forms, is collected in watering cans and applied directly to high-value crops like kale, tomatoes, and onions, often diluted 1:3 with water for delicate seedlings or used full strength for fruiting plants. The results are visible within days: deep green leaves, vigorous growth, and significantly higher yields compared to undigested manure, with the added benefit that the processing has neutralized weed seeds and most plant pathogens while concentrating micronutrients that prevent common deficiencies in human diets. 16th, crop rotation knowledge. In Togo's vibrant agricultural communities, farmers don't just plant crops, they orchestrate them in a sophisticated temporal dance across seasons and years. Village elders maintain complex mental maps of which plants followed others in each field section, knowledge as precious as any physical tool. Watch a Togolese farmer at work and you will see them deliberately planting nitrogen-hungry maize, where legumes grew the previous season, followed by shallow-rooted greens where deep-rooted cassava has broken up compacted soil layers. This choreography isn't random, but follows ancestral patterns refined over generations, with farmers tracking how each plant family removes specific nutrients while contributing others, creates habitat for beneficial insects, or disrupts pest cycles, and affects soil microbiology in ways invisible to the eye, but evident in harvest baskets. Children learn these patterns through songs and stories that encode agricultural timing. When the baobab fruits fall, plant the groundnuts where last year's sorghum stood tall, ensuring this sophisticated knowledge system survives without written records, while maintaining soil health that sustains communities for generations without external inputs. 17. Water harvesting trenches. Before rainy seasons begin in Niger, entire communities mobilise with hand tools to carve strategic networks of half-moon-shaped trenches across gentle slopes, each positioned to intercept water as it flows downhill. The excavated soil forms raised berms on the downhill side, creating miniature catchment basins roughly 3 metres wide and 15 centimetres deep. These aren't dug haphazardly, but follow subtle contour lines invisible to untrained eyes, ensuring water moves slowly across the landscape rather than racing away. When storms finally arrive, these simple earthworks transform the land. Rainwater pools in the trenches, seeping slowly downward for days rather than hours, creating underground moisture reservoirs that extend growing seasons by weeks, while simultaneously preventing the flash erosion that once stole precious topsoil during heavy rains. Trees planted at strategic points along these systems send roots deep into the newly moistened soil layers, further stabilizing the landscape while providing fruit, fodder and biomass in a virtuous cycle that gradually regenerates the once degraded land. 18th banana circle planting. This process is common in Tanzania. It begins by digging a shallow circular pit roughly 2 meters across, with excavated soil forming a raised ring around the perimeter. Into this depression goes a steady stream of kitchen scraps, sugarcane bagasse, palm fronds, and even wash water, materials that would elsewhere be discarded. Around the circle's edge, farmers plant banana suckers and papaya seedlings at strategic intervals, their roots positioned to access the decomposing material as it breaks down into rich compost. As these plants mature, they create a living nutrient pump. Their deep roots draw up minerals from soil layers annual crops can't reach, while their broad leaves catch and channel rainfall directly into the central pit. The system builds upon itself over time. Falling leaves add organic matter, plant stems direct more water inward, and the deliberately sunken design creates a microclimate with higher humidity than surrounding areas, helping crops thrive through dry periods while providing families with a consistent supply of fruits and leafy greens precisely where kitchen waste is most easily deposited. 19th manure tea. In Mozambique's coastal farming communities where sandy soils quickly lose nutrients to heavy rains, gardeners brew a potent plant elixir that delivers rapid nutrition to struggling crops. The process begins by filling burlap sacks with fresh goat, chicken or rabbit manure collected from household livestock pens, then suspending these makeshift tea bags in repurposed oil drums filled with rainwater. After steeping for 7 to 10 days, the liquid transforms into a dark, nutrient-rich concentrate that farmers dilute to the colour of weak tea before application. Small holes punched in the bottoms of repurposed plastic bottles create perfect delivery systems, allowing farmers to apply precise amounts directly to plant roots without wasting a drop. This liquid fertilizer, rich in immediately available nitrogen and micronutrients, triggers visible growth responses within days, reviving yellowing leaves, strengthening stems against wind damage, and boosting flowering during critical reproductive phases. The technique proves particularly valuable during unexpected stress periods when crops show nutrient deficiencies mid-season, providing an emergency rescue application that can save harvests while utilising materials every farming household already has on hand. 20. Shade farming with vines. In Côte d'Ivoire's humid forests, farmers have developed vertical growing systems that maximise production while minimising water needs. The technique begins with sturdy wooden frames constructed from branches pruned during the dry season, creating living trellises that stand about 2 metres tall above garden beds. As the rainy season begins, farmers plant drought-sensitive vegetables like eggplants, peppers, and leafy greens in the ground below, while simultaneously starting fast-growing climbing plants, gourds, yams, or cowpeas, alongside each trellis post. These climbing species race skyward, coached by farmers who gently train their tendrils along horizontal supports, eventually creating living canopies that filter harsh midday light. The dappled shade below not only reduces soil temperature by up to 10 degrees centigrade and cuts evaporation losses dramatically, but also creates ideal growing conditions for crops that would otherwise struggle through the intense dry season. The system's brilliance lies in its space efficiency, where conventional methods would grow either shade plants or food crops, This vertical partnership produces both from the same footprint while creating beneficial microclimates that extend growing seasons and reduce irrigation needs during critical drought periods. Now, I think these hacks are mind-blowing. What do you think?